You know, I was playing through Chain of Memories last year, and during one of the Vexen fights, I noticed that he creates a sort of ice in a slate attack. I realized that a lot of the animations in Chain of Memories are probably never seen because the main focus of this game's combat is breaking cards and keeping your enemy from attacking. So I thought, why not do a series breaking down the animations of Chain of Memories? Little did I know how big of a mistake this would be. You tell me, why should it take 2 days to get a single card, huh? Why is that? Why would you hurt me like that, Mr. Nomura? I know that was specifically your design choice. The RNG system is a little tough to deal with at times, and some of the door requirements are a lot, but we don't have to worry about that in this series, which will cover the organization members and their animations and slates. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Bio-Roxas. I love to dive into animations and battle mechanics to shine a light on some of the hard work that developers put a ton of time into that doesn't always get appreciated. I cover mostly Final Fantasy XIV and Kingdom Hearts content here, so if you enjoy either of those, be sure to subscribe. Anyways, without further ado, let's look at our first organization member we fight in Chain of Memories, Axel. Also, I'll be showcasing my favorite hot take about the character that I'm doing a breakdown of, so be sure to follow me over on Twitter if you want to drop that take. Also, we're doing the next one on Larxene, so if you want to drop a comment in this video, I'll highlight my favorite one in the next video. This series will be looking at both the original GBA version of Chain of Memories as well as the remix version released on the PS2. Anyways, let's look at the first fight against Axel. You can see that the localization for Chain of Memories differs slightly from its remix counterpart. Axel's iconic phrase, "got it memorized," was not iconic yet, with the GBA version actually using the committed to memory localization that you see from time to time. It's also interesting that Sora is referred to as Keyblade Master in the GBA version as well. Anyways, I could probably do a separate video looking at the differences in translations and localizations of these games, but enough of that, let's look at the first fight. Axel's first card is a striking card. These have a bluish-purple background and are a combo card. If Axel misses a strike, he will stop his attack, but from what I've seen in this first fight, Axel will do a 4-hit combo if he catches you. In Recom, Axel actually has a full-fledged combo. I thought these attacks were actually pulled straight from Kingdom Hearts 2, but all of these attacks that Axel uses are his own unique animations for this game. At least, they're not from Kingdom Hearts 2. If you've seen this somewhere else, let me know down below because I couldn't find it. This works the same way as the GBA version. If you dodge a strike at any point, it will cancel out the combo. Next up is Axel's Chakram Throw. These have a green background and simply have Axel throwing his weapon at Sora. In the GBA version, Axel will always do a dash backwards before throwing his weapon. He then zips forward to catch it. The teleportation animation literally just stretches his bottle up. In Recom, Axel will only backstep if you are too close to him. Axel's Chakram is also bathed in flames here before he throws it at you. And he uses a dark portal to maneuver around to catch his weapon. He'll also use a dark portal just to kind of jump around. He's he does not like being close to Sora. If you dodge upwards, you can actually make Axel teleport into the air. Firewall is Axel's only slate that he will use in his first fight. This slate uses his striking cards. A nice little touch is the GBA version has a nobody sigil beside the name of the slate. In the GBA version, this is quite literally just a wall of flames that Axel will slowly move towards you to cut you off. Hitting it will damage you and end the attack. You can dodge through it to cancel out the attack, which doesn't work out too well in Recon. You can probably dodge through it. I have never had luck actually, I guess, hitting the right frames to dodge through it, but maybe you can. This pose Axel does is mirrored in Recom's attack and probably looks familiar as it is a pretty iconic pose for him. This firewall attack spawns these circling flames above Axel's head that spin out towards the ground and create additional pillars of fire. It's actually pretty incredible. You probably wouldn't even be able to see this as you get hit by the initial wave of the attack. During this first fight, I've not seen Axel use a support card, but we can see a great card in his deck that goes unused. The second fight really doesn't change that much. The only other new attack that is added to the mix is Firetooth, which is a slate made up of throwing cards in Recom and a throwing card and 2 striking cards in the GBA version. It's interesting that they changed out the makeup for it. In both versions, this can change depending on Axel's health. In both games, Axel will throw his chakrams forward, which will arc towards you, covering a pretty wide area. When he reaches a certain HP threshold, Axel will change this and instead bounces chakrams around the arena. In Recom, he will summon an additional 2 chakrams to add to his onslaught. This can be pretty deadly if you get caught up in it, slicing your HP to ribbons in seconds. In this second fight, Axel has access to 2 support cards in both versions. The first card is the Axel card, which is Quick Recovery, a support ability that allows the user to use a card even when being staggered or hit. There's also an additional effect that makes the user immune to fire, though they will still be stunned by ice. The other card is the Red Nocturne card, which grants fire boost until the next reload of cards. And that really makes up most of the fights. Before I end the video though, I wanted to note a couple of things outside of the animations. Obviously Axel has a fire affinity, so don't use fire. Also try not to use Donald because he always just freaking uses fire. Breaking a card will have a stun animation that I thought I would highlight. In both games, defeating Axel the first time will grant you a fire card. In Recom, you receive Axel's card after you defeat him a second time. There are also a number of quotes said during slates and reloading cards that I'll play here.
Come in, I'll make it all stop. Let the flames burn you! Burn! What's the problem? Don't make me mad. Not over yet! Burn, baby!
Hey you guys, today we're going to be looking at Larxene from Chain of Memories. I'll be looking for hot takes on Vexen next, so drop those down in the comments or look out for my tweet in the coming week, and I may pick your comment. The series will be looking at both the original GBA version of Chain of Memories as well as the remixed version released on the PS2. Does anyone else remember this getting bundled with Kingdom Hearts 2 when that released? Is that some kind of promotional thing? Because I definitely remember that, I think. Now that I'm thinking about it, actually, maybe I didn't. Anyways, that's not important. Let's look at the first encounter with Larxene. I really like how Recom redoes the GBA cutscene. Even though the GBA cutscenes get compressed to all hell, I really liked seeing these pop up in the game. One other thing I want to point out in this opening cutscene is the effect when Larxene summons her knives. I know the specific name is like Faudre, something like that, which I know I didn't pronounce right. It's French for lightning, which is a really cool detail. I'm going to be using the word knives throughout this breakdown because I cannot say that every time. So anyways, back to the cutscene. One beam of light appears before a flash of light reveals the knives. I will always bring this up, but the color scheme being similar to Missing Ache, as well as Larxene's past as a Keyblade wielder, makes me convinced this is a Keyblade form change. This isn't a theory video though, already made that. Click the iCard in the corner if you want to see that. Let's look at Larxene's attacks, starting with her striking cards. There are 2 red attack cards and 1 blue attack card that Larxene will use in the GBA version, while Recom only has 2 red attack cards, with 1 card changing the card's attack when Larxene's health gets low. Let's look at the GBA version first. The first red card has a green background and has Larxene throwing her knives forward in a line towards you. These fly forward in a blur of yellow light, but if Sora gets caught in the attack, the knives will actually stop and stick into him. In Recom, Larxene will do the same attack, but I have to point out her attack card genuinely looks like she would have applied to a mean comment with no U, unironically. Anyways, the trails behind these knives look really clean, and there's a shard effect from her hands during the throws. It's actually the same shard effect as the Valor Form shards. Thought that was like a cool detail to point out. I know it's just like an effect that they're using, and it's not like directly tied to Valor Form. I just think it's cool to see similar assets in different places. If Sora is hit, a lightning effect arcs out from the strike point. This happens with all attacks that he gets hit by. The next card attack has a bluish purple background and is a close range attack. Larxene starts with a rising slash attack before swiping at the falling Sora. Dodging the first attack will stop the combo. In Recom, the attacks are actually switched, with the swipe attack happening first before following with the rising slash. I really like the trails on the knives during these strikes. It's a small detail, but really gets across the feeling of speed that Larxene has. If you dodge the first strike, Larxene will actually rush forward to continue her combo. The last card in GBA is a blue card and appears when Larxene's health is low. This doubles her 2-hit strike before she calls down lightning. Just like the other combo in the GBA version, dodging will cancel out the attack. Larxene has a similar attack in Recom, though there is not a unique blue card for it. This takes over the original red combo card after Larxene reaches a certain amount of HP. Her first 2 attacks are the same 1-2 combo from her original card, but she then does a spin to start up her second 1-2 hit, and her second hit is a rising strike that pushes her into a flip backwards. As she lands, she casts Thunder down on Sora, raining down 5 lightning bolts. Dodging this attack does not cancel out her combo, as Larxene will continue her combo even if she misses. Larxene has a simple thunder attack that she uses in both versions. In the GBA version, this hits a large area of the arena. In Recom, this calls down 7 bolts of lightning down in random spots around Sora. In this first phase, Larxene will use 1 slate in the GBA version and 2 in Recom. In the GBA version, Larxene will use Lightning Bolt made up of 2 blue cards and 1 red. This shows Larxene calling forth lightning to pull Sora close. This will stun him and has incredible range. You can dodge it, but it takes some pretty particular timing. There's a similar slate in Recom, though it's called Megavolt and has the same makeup of cards, though in a different order. Larxene flips to the center before glowing yellow and jumping into the air. She throws her knives down into the ground, creating a line of lightning that moves out in front of her in a cone. The other slate is called Teleport Rush and is made up of all red cards, 2 throwing cards and 1 combo card. This slate has Larxene literally teleporting around you and rushing forward to do a 1-2 combo. Dodging the first hit will have her teleport out of the combo and restart another one. This also appears in the second phase of the GBA version. This one functions a little differently. Larxene will hit you once before teleporting and following up with a rising slash. She'll then teleport 3 times, throwing out a set of knives each time. Speaking of the second phase, there really isn't that much that changes. The only thing I found was the slate Bladestorm, which is made up of 3 blue cards. Larxene glows with a yellow aura before twisting up into the air. You can actually see her knives appearing on the outside of the arena while she powers up. She thrusts her arm forward, causing lightning pillars to sweep across the room. If you touch one, the pillars will all latch onto you, raising you into the air and dealing damage. After a while, you'll drop down to the ground stunned at the end of the attack. You still have access to your cards here, so look for a 0 or a strong slate to break out. You can also dodge this attack, but since it goes on for almost 30 seconds and the hitboxes are very janky, it'd be best to just break the slate as soon as you can. Larxene has access to 2 support cards, a Thunder Boost card and her own support card which grants Dash. Dash increases your running speed and also makes you immune to lightning attacks. Before I end the video, I wanted to note a couple of things outside of the animations. Here's the obligatory thanks Donald for casting Thunder on the enemy who was healed by Thunder. Defeating Larxene the first time will grant you a Thunder card, and in Recom you receive Larxene's card after defeating her the second time. One of Riku's forms in Dream Drop Distance is actually a lightning form, and I just think the similarities are really similar, so I wanted to kind of have some footage here of Riku, and he has like that yellow aura around him. I don't know, I just think it's really interesting. Also, Blade Storm is a shot lock from Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't know if they just forgot that, but yet again, another tie to Keyblades with Larxene, just very odd. There are also a number of quotes said during slates and reloading cards that I'll play here.
Lightning! You're done! I feel so bad. You have no heart. No escape. You're getting on my nerves. I'm gonna break you. How do you like this?
Hey you guys, today we're going to be looking at Vexen from Chain of Memories. I'll be looking for hot takes on Dark Riku next, so drop those down in the comments or look out for my tweet in the coming week and I may pick your comment. Like always, this series will be looking at both the original GBA version of Chain of Memories as well as the remix version released on the PS2. This fight against Vexen also appears through Riku's route, but there's only one notable change from what I found. Anyways, I don't want to waste your time, so let's look at the first encounter with Vexen. The first thing to note is that this shield is so overpowered. The amount of times I will accidentally waste a hit on his shield is really frustrating. I know, skill issue, but man, is it annoying. Vexen actually only has 2 cards in his arsenal, a red card and a blue card. The red card, like usual, is a striking card. In the GBA version, Vexen slides forward with a quick shield bash. In Recom, Vexen will do a 2-hit strike, with the first hit being a quick strike upwards, before he spins the shield to hold it upside down and slashes upwards again. The second strike summons a pillar of ice that shoots out of the ground. You can see Vexen spin the shield back upright at the end of the attack. Another really small detail is the ice effect on the edge of his shield during his slashes. The blue card is Vexen's magic attack. In the GBA version, Vexen shoots ice out of his free hand. I really like the look of this ice crystal when it spawns. In Recom, Vexen will use his free hand to spawn an ice spear that he hurls towards Sora. This locks on and will circle around to hit Sora if you dodge it. Something I want to highlight are the swirling effects around Vexen during the beginning of this cast. Vexen has a similar effect when he uses Slate Freeze, which is made up of 2 red cards and 1 blue one. This slate of course freezes Sora in an ice cube and makes him chill out. Anyways, if you get caught in this ice, Vexen will fly forward, striking you and breaking the ice. Also, jumping does not save you from being frozen. The GBA version is practically the same, though uses 2 blue cards and 1 red. Also, if you are frozen, your health will just slowly drain while Vexen looks at you. This slate doesn't have an attack attached to it, so Vexen will just watch you until his cards run out. Mashing buttons will release you from your icy prison a little bit more quickly. This is post-editing bio, saying that I completely forgot to put in the Ice Needles animation. This has Vexen slamming his hand down, creating a cage of ice around himself, and shooting forward Ice Needles at you. Both the Ice Needles and the cage will actually do damage, so be careful. In the GBA version, it's just the Ice Needles, there's no cage that comes up. And that's really it for the first iteration of Vexen. Let's look at Vexen's second fight now. Vexen still just has 2 cards that he uses for his attacks, but he does add a unique slate for each version. In the GBA version, there's Iceburn, a slate made up of 2 blue cards and 1 red. This drops down multiple patches of ice that will cause Sora to slip if he walks over them. The animation Sora does is almost like a dodge roll that just stops halfway through. In Recom, Vexen uses a slate called Slide Break. This is made up of 2 blue cards and 1 red. Vexen spins his shield before thrusting into the air, creating a sword of ice around it. There are 2 additional shards of ice that jet out of the shield. Vexen rushes forward and does a spinning slash before turning around and doing another slash. He then ends the attack with a flipping ground slam that pushes out a shockwave. I'm going to talk about Riku's fight here, since all that is really added to Riku's version is the slate Diamond Dust. This is made up of 2 blue cards and 1 red one. Vexen raises his hand to the air, causing ice to swirl around, causing damage over time. This happens for both the original version as well as Rechain. While in the GBA version this just ends after a certain amount of time, with Recom he actually does a shockwave at the end. Vexen has 3 support cards he will use. Because of his ice affinity, Vexen has a blue Rhapsody enemy card to boost his ice damage. He also has an air pirate card which stops you from breaking his item cards. I guess this is a good spot to show off and highlight the item using animation. Lastly, Vexen's own card is Auto Life, which revives you after your HP reaches 0. It also works like previous organization cards, having an additional effect that makes you immune to ice damage, but will have you stunned if you get hit by fire. As always, before I end the video, I wanted to note a couple things outside of the animations. I found out while playing through Riku's side that Vexen is immune to darkness-based attacks. Unlike previous organization fights, you don't actually receive anything when you defeat Vexen the first time, since you already have a Blizzard card by this point. In Recom though, you do receive the Vexen card after defeating him the second time. There are also a number of voice lines said during slates and reloading cards that I'll play here.
Taste this! I shall freeze you! Here you go! Taste this! You are just an experiment! You imbecile! You're too much trouble! You're pushing it! Throw while you still can! Come to me, Ice Blade!
And guys, today we were looking at the Riku Replica from Chain of Memories. I'll be looking for hot takes on Marluxia next, so drop those down in the comments below, or look out for my tweet asking the same thing in the coming week, and I may pick your comment. Also, before the video starts, I want to briefly shill the newly opened YouTube memberships. If you want to support me, why not join the channel? You get special perks for it, and it greatly helps me out. Obviously, it's not going to affect anything channel-wise, but you do get some special perks for it, and it greatly helps me out. I'm also on Twitch playing Kingdom Hearts randomizers, Kingdom Hearts playthroughs, and Final Fantasy XIV, so yeah, go check that out as well. Okay, sorry, video time. Like always, this series will be looking at both the original GBA version of Chain of Memories as well as the remix version released on the PS2. This fight against the Riku Replica also appears throughout Riku's routes, though there aren't any notable changes. So I'll just be using footage from Sora's fights. If you've been around the channel long enough, you know that I've covered Riku's Dark Mode and his slates from Chain of Memories before, so this all probably looks really familiar. I'm going to briefly walk through it and note the more unique mechanics involved in the Chain of Memory versions, but really it's, if you watch my XIII Breakdowns, you've seen this before. I actually think it's a really cool detail that the Riku Replica in Kingdom Hearts 3 has such a similar animation set to the one from Chain of Memories. It could have been easy to make up their own combat or really not pay as much detail as they did, so it really shows the hard work that they put in. So anyways, the Riku Replica has 4 battles against Sora and 2 against Riku, though like I said before, we'll just focus on Sora's.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
I love the darkness.
The first and second battle have 3 striking cards, while the third and fourth have 4. This fourth card has a blue background in Recom, but a purplish color in the GBA version. This card is actually used in the GBA version, but I've never actually seen it used in Recom except in slates. It's like a slate-specific card. These card attacks also change throughout the different battles in Recom, so what I'll do for this breakdown is go card by card and note how it evolves throughout the fights. The first card we'll look at is the card with the green background. This is a downward slash in both the GBA version and Recom. Recom though has the replica twisting into the air before striking the ground. The first version just has an explosion out of the ground. I don't want to be an insane person going frame by frame, but there is a really nice effect of a ring of electricity that then turns into arcing lightning. I thought this effect looked so cool paired with the light and darkness spilling out of the explosion. Also the subtle explosion on the floor that turns from yellow to purple. I swear I'm not an insane person, let's move on. I just, the details in this one just really struck me as very detailed and interesting. This attack actually changes from the third fight onwards, having 2 shockwaves shoot outwards from the attack. The next attack has different colors across the versions, though is the same 1-2 hit, starting with a slash before Riku dashes forward. This second hit can stun Sora in both versions. In Recom, during the third and fourth battles, the opening strike sends forward an energy disc. This is a good place to point out the hit effects from Riku's sword strikes. It's not insanely flashy, but I think the X effect looks really cool. It appears in the GBA version as well, and this effect is still used years later in XIII. I've already gushed over it, but I love the attention to detail this series has. The fact that a throwaway X attack still shows up in later games is just so cool. The yellow card is a spinning slash that can hit multiple times. This one actually does not evolve throughout the battles. The last card is purple in the GBA version and has the replica jumping high into the air before stabbing down into Sora and flipping out of the attack. Like I said before, this is only used in the GBA version, though this is actually a great segue into slates, since the unique slate to Recom is actually the same attack. The same animation as the GBA purple card attack, though Riku does 3 stabs with a bolt of lightning striking down with him, and a shockwave pushing out each time. The third hit, multiple bolts of lightning rain down. The next slate is Dark Firaga, which is made up of all blue cards in Recom and 2 green cards and a yellow card in the GBA version. This is just a simple cast of fire. It has a nice animation though as he crouches and kind of rears back before throwing it forward. It is incredibly fast, so time your dodges. Lastly is Dark Aura, Riku's iconic attack and the bane of everyone's existence because it is insane. This is made up of 2 red cards and 1 blue in Recom, and 2 orange cards and 1 purple in the GBA version. This has the replica rising into the air before dashing at you multiple times. This actually has different striking poses that Riku will dash at you with, and in the Recom version, the sword actually will start at one position before moving into Riku's hands. It's almost like the sword and Riku's spawn as like separate objects, and then it like moves up to his hands. At the end of the dashes, Riku will stab the ground, raining down bolts of lightning. If Sora gets hit by this in the GBA version, it can sometimes confuse him. In Recom, during the slate, Riku will cloak himself in an aura of darkness at the beginning. And also the last battle against him, he is in like his complete dark form with his hand, glowing with that aura. And that is it for the attacks. Let's look at these support cards that the replica has. The Riku replica has 2 support cards he will use as well as an elixir. Here's his item use animation. The first support card is the Shadow card, which has the Incrementer ability. This increases the values of all cards by 1, which actually does more harm than good for the replica, since he can't break your cards with a 0 when he uses this. The Riku replica card has the ability Slate Lock. This keeps you from losing the cards you use in slates when you reload, up to 5 times. It also gives you resistance to fire, ice, and lightning. The first time you defeat Riku, you get a Tornado Magic card. The second time nets you nothing, the third time you get a Mega Potion card, and the fourth time you get Riku Replica's card. There are also a number of quotes said during slates and reloading cards that I'll play here.
Get ready! You gotta be kidding. Freeze! Huh. Me? Lose? Drop! You're finished! You're the fake!
Hey you guys, today we're going to be looking at Marluxia from Chain of Memories. I'll be looking for hot takes on Lexaeus next, so drop those down in the comments or look out for my tweet in the coming weeks and I may pick a comment. Also, before the video starts, I want to briefly show the newly opened YouTube memberships, which are not newly opened at this point, but if you want to support me, why not join the channel? You get some nice perks to it. Like always, this series will be looking at both the original GBA version of Chain of Memories as well as the remixed version released on the PS2. I actually did a breakdown on the second phase of Marluxia a couple years back now, when Strelitzia was getting all of her lore dropped. Because of that, I'm just going to link to that video and only cover the first phase in this video. I know some people might not be happy with that, but I really didn't want to rehash the entire second phase when I've already done it before. So without further ado, let's look at Marluxia, the final fight in Sora's route. Marluxia has 3 cards and 3 slates. The first card we're looking at is his striking card. This has a yellow background and has a slight difference between the versions. The GBA version has Marluxia doing a quick dash forward with the scythe. I actually really like how the flash of light blinds you for a second, revealing Marluxia already behind you finished with his attack. In Recom, this attack has a red background and has Marluxia dashing around behind you before slashing at you quickly. He'll then do a spinning strike before doing a 1-2 hit. Next is the striking card with the red background. In the GBA version, this has Marluxia doing a slash that sends forward a blast of magic. In the Recom version, Marluxia does 2 slashes, each time shooting out blades of magic that arc out towards you. These blades of magic are a bit difficult to dodge, though if you're a certain distance away, you can be missed by the attack. His last attack is a blue card. In the GBA version, Marluxia slams the hilt of his scythe on the ground, creating a shockwave. In Recom, it is a bit more in-depth. An aura of magic and dark thorns bursts around Marluxia as he spins his scythe in front of himself. He then spins and slashes twice, creating 3 almost flame-like casts of magic around you. These are similar to the aura he has at the beginning of the cast. These will circle in towards you, and if you are caught, will suspend sword in the air before Marluxia dashes in to strike. You can dodge this, but it lasts a very long time, so it's best to break it as soon as you can. Now let's look at the slates Marluxia can use in this fight. The GBA version has 2 slates, while Recom has 3. Blossom Shower is the first slate made up of 2 blue cards and a red background card. In the GBA version, Marluxia raises a hand and rose petals circle out covering the arena. In the Recon version, this is a pretty incredible slate. Marluxia teleports in front of you and does a spin as 3 discs appear around him to slice at you. This happens 3 times before he teleports and shoots out a shockwave as rose petals appear in the air. Another hit goes out as the shockwave locks into place, creating a circle around Marluxia. He glows with a pink aura as he directs the petals to fly towards you. Death Scythe is made up of 1 of each card and has Marluxia holding a scythe up above his head before he does a 2-handed slash that has an energy slice through part of the room. In Recon, Marluxia actually teleports into the air, spinning as he raises the scythe up. He strikes down, causing a blast to carve up the ground, exploding after a second. He then spins the scythe and follows up with another strike before spinning it again and finishing with 1 final slice. Drop Shot is unique to Recon and is made up of 2 red background cards and a yellow. This has Marluxia teleporting above you and slamming his scythe down, creating a shockwave and cracks along the floor. This explodes after a second. This is really similar to an attack he does in the Keyblade Graveyard in Kingdom Hearts 3 actually. And that's all the attacks. Marluxia does have a support card he will use as well as an elixir. Here's his item use animation. Marluxia's support card is Double Slate. This will make any slate or combo repeat. It also gives you resistance to fire, ice, lightning, and slate attacks, but you'll be weak to physical attacks. Defeating Marluxia nets you his support card. There are also a number of quotes said during slates and reloading cards that I'll play here.
Will be scattered. Your heart shall be judged. Let's go. Freeze. So you are a hero.
Today we'll be looking at Xilixia. With the recent update to the Union Cross mobile game, it was all but confirmed that the Spectre from Chain of Memories is Xilixia. There are many allusions to the final boss of Chain of Memories. There's this scene here where Xilixia says she wants to stand behind Marluxia, or this scene here where Marluxia says that once she's strong enough to carry him on her back, that's when they would team up. Even the coat she's wearing at the end of the scene is reminiscent to the Nobody boss from Chain of Memories. The sleeves are long and wide at the ends, covering her hands, and a hood covers her eyes, though her hair and the lower half of her face are still visible. I'll hold off on theorizing about what this scene means since Damo actually did a fantastic job on his video. I'll leave a link down below to that. Anyways, the only other thing I wanted to note about this scene was the flowers here. It seems like both Laurium and Xilixia have an affinity with flowers. It seems that Laurium comes here a lot since Xilixia thought to look here. Both the giant Nobody boss and Marluxia use the same kind of scythes, so this makes me think that there may be some kind of family line of scythe or flower keyblade wielders. Anyways, now let's look at the Chain of Memories fight. For this video, I'll primarily be focusing on the Chain of Memories fight. This is more detailed and has 2 phases rather than the 1 phase seen in the GBA version. I will, however, show how the attacks look in the GBA version when a similar attack appears. At the start of the battle, Marluxia summons the Spectre with a whirling tornado. Flower petals whip around before the wind dies down, revealing the boss. You can see a Nobody sigil on it, which of course means this is a Nobody. We do know that Xilixia was killed during the events of Union Cross, so it's possible that her will is strong enough to create a Nobody. A flower sprouts above the head, showing Marluxia atop it. Twin scythe heads are the weapons this Nobody uses, though we can't see the handle of them, nor can we see any hands holding them. As the camera pans around the boss, we can see tears on the Spectre's face. Marluxia bathes himself in light before 2 wings shoot up behind him. I found it a little odd that Marluxia summoned additional wings for an already flying Nobody, but I actually think this is supposed to be Xilixia's hair. The way this shot is lined up makes it look like there's 2 braids of hair behind the Nobody in a style similar to Xilixia's. Also, while I have her on screen, I want to point out that she has the number 11 or 9 in her hair, depending on how you look at it. Marluxia is actually number 11 in the organization, which makes me think this is a subtle nod to that. Now let's look at the combat. The first attack is a shockwave attack. The scythes will glow before the Spectre does a 2-hit attack, sending forward 2 waves of energy. Flower petals are seen flying around during all these attacks, so I won't be pointing that out every time. After both waves fly past you, energy will shoot up from the ground where they pass over. If you damage one of the scythes, only one of the waves will be sent forward. The next attack is a projectile attack. Marluxia will swipe his hand in front of himself, spawning a plate of energy in front of him. Flowers will circle around this plate, with one moving to the center to trigger the attack. After the flower reaches the center of the plate, an X pattern wave homes in on you. You can actually evade this pretty easily by jumping over them if you can't break the card. This attack will change in the different parts of the first phase. In the first part, there will be 3 flowers that shoot at you. After damaging a scythe, 4 flowers will appear, and after damaging both, 5 flowers will appear. Another attack Marluxia can use is this flower homing attack. 3 flowers will circle around you, occasionally shooting at you. To get rid of these flowers, you can either break the card when it appears, or deal enough damage to it. There are 2 kinds of ultimate attacks in this first phase. One is a Mega Flare-like attack. The camera will pan in towards Marluxia as he charges up. You can see dark thorns circling around him, as well as pink energy. The orb of light grows larger as flower petals are drawn towards it. After a second, everything condenses into the orb before it explodes. Petals seem to fly towards you after this, as seen by this effect here. The other ultimate attack shows Marluxia charging up an orb of darkness in the air. The orb expands and darkens the screen before it changes the arena. The arena is now flying towards this light in the distance. Your cards are all blacked out during this section. Earlier, I had mentioned that there are parts to this phase. After damaging each scythe, it'll break and the Spectre will change some of its attacks. Once both are damaged, you will be able to easily target the main body. You can actually lock onto it before this though. If you do enough damage to the main body, the scythes will break, moving the battle onto the third part. During this part, there will be 2 additional attacks added. There is this dash attack where the Spectre will charge towards you, flying out of the arena before charging back again. In the GBA version, breaking the card will allow you to jump on the back of the Spectre and deal damage. This was repurposed into a second phase in the remake. The other attack is a diving strike. The Spectre will shoot into the air before diving down near you. This creates a shockwave that spreads out on the ground. And that is it for the first phase. After dealing the finishing blow, the screen whites out before you're transported to the back of the Spectre. As the camera moves past the Spectre, we can see that the hood and cloak are now torn. Marluxia is now standing with Dark Thorn circling around him, and a second Spectre can be seen standing behind him holding a scythe. This one does not have a nobody sigil on them. A red skull adorns their head with yellow eyes. The teeth of this actually look really similar to Shalicia's banks. In the Data Marluxia battle in Kingdom Hearts 3, we actually see a skull fly out of a pool of darkness to damage you. I assume both of these skulls allude to the death of Strelitzia, but it could definitely just be the death motif that surrounds Marluxia. If you look closely at the face of this Spectre, you can see that there are no tears falling from her eyes, and that there is also no smile. Other than that, the only other thing I noticed was the 2 sets of wings, one white and one black. This probably stands for the Angel of Death and the Grim Reaper. The surrounding area is a set of spinning rings with roses adorning them. 2 attacks are carried over from the first phase, the Homing Flower attack, where the flowers circle you, and the Mega Flare attack. Alongside these attacks, there is also a teleporting scythe attack that the Spectre can do. The Spectre will sink its scythe into the ground, throwing forward a wave of energy. Energy pours out of the hole created in the ground, and you can also see energy circling the Spectre as well. Marluxia uses a number of different slates during this phase. Whirlwind to the Void is a set of 3 mini tornadoes that fly towards you. If you get hit, all of your cards will be spread out across the arena. While you can dodge this, you need to watch out for the wind to come circling back. If you stay near the edge when you dodge this, the wind will cancel out against the wall. Another slate is Doom. Marluxia will shoot forward dark thorns that trap you in place. A countdown will appear over your head, and the Spectre will slowly move towards you. To get free, you need to break through 6 of his cards. If you don't escape, the Spectre will slice at you, instantly defeating you. Gale of Severance is the last slate in the first part, which shows the Spectre flapping its wings, creating a strong gust of air that pushes you to the edge of the arena. After dealing enough damage, Marluxia will use 2 more slates. Circle Reject has the Spectre teleporting close to you and slamming the bottom of their scythe against the ground, pushing out a shockwave. You can easily jump over this to avoid damage. Omni Laser has Marluxia spawning flowers on the outside of the arena that all shoot a beam at you. This will rotate during the attack. I haven't found a super reliable way to dodge this, but as always you can just break the slate with your own cards. The flowers actually appear on the rings a bit before the attack triggers, which should give you enough time to get an attack ready to break the slate. And I think that is it. After you defeat Marluxia, the camera will pan over him and the Spectre. Marluxia reaches towards Sora before he disappears, leaving behind darkness and petals. There are a couple of small details I want to point out before I end this video. One of them is that breaking a card will cause both Marluxia and the Spectre to react. Also, I love the design of the cards in this fight. It was a small detail, but having the Spectre appear alongside Marluxia was really cool. And that is all I have for you guys today. Hey you guys, today we'll be looking at all of Riku's fights in Chain of Memories. Since we won't be rehashing the ones I've already covered, that leaves 3 boss fights. I want to focus on making content that is longer and more thought out, and this is that first step towards putting that kind of video together. So let me know how the format goes. It's honestly going to be largely the same that I usually do, but just trying to take a little bit more time to make a bigger video. So I hope you guys enjoy Riku's boss fight breakdown. Like always, this series will be looking at both the original GBA version of Chain of Memories, as well as the remix version released on the PS2. Lexaeus is up first, sporting an axe sword that he uses to pummel you into the ground. You only fight him once, but it can be pretty tough if you aren't prepared. His enemy card is Warp Break, which acts differently than when you receive it. When Lexaeus uses this card, you have a chance of becoming stunned from his attacks. This can actually set you up to be stun locked to death. Okay, Riku, it's time to wake up. Riku, okay. Funny joke, wake up. Riku, wake up! Anyways, when you use it, this card has a high chance of just banishing enemies with a combo finisher. It also makes you immune to ice for some reason and resistant to physical attacks, so you don't get a hit stun. In exchange, you become weak to special attacks. Lexaeus has 3 cards, with 2 being red attack cards and 1 being a blue magic card. He has a close range attack and a long range one. Let's look at his long range attack first. This is his red card with a blue background. In the GBA version, Lexaeus tosses up his axe sword and it tumbles around the room towards you. It's actually kind of interesting how Lexaeus just calls this back to himself, kind of like calling a Keyblade back to you. Recom continues the Keyblade vibes, with its version having a Strike Ray-esque attack. Interestingly enough, I caught an instance of his blue power-up card triggering this attack instead of a normal red one. Probably a glitch, but I thought it was pretty interesting. Now let's look at his close range attack. This is the red card with a red background. The GBA version just has a single strike, whereas the Recon version has him follow up by twisting into the air and slamming down. The screen shaking really underlines how powerful Lexaeus' attacks are. And finally, let's look at the blue card. In the GBA version, this has him doing a strong slam on the ground, which actually tilts the arena, causing you to slide across the room. In Recon, this card actually powers Lexaeus up, creating a really cool gimmick for this fight. This changes his close range attack, with the second level causing shockwaves to push out from the attacks, and the third level cracking the ground and causing an explosion to burst forth. I haven't actually been able to dodge all the hits from the third level due to the spread of the attack and spacing of the hits going out. While Lexaeus is powered up to his second level, he will not stun from hits. When he is powered up to his third level, he cannot be damaged and knocks you out of your attack. The only other thing that Lexaeus can use are his slates. He only has one in each version, though it does change depending on which level he is at in Recon. The first level is Impact Quake. Lexaeus raises Axel into the air before jumping and sinking it into the ground, shooting out a shockwave. This spawns multiple boulders jet out of the ground. It's important to dodge this because it's really easy to get ping-ponged and stunned to death here, or at least take a ton of damage. Level 2 of this slate is called Rock Shatter. Lexaeus moves to the center of the room, powering up and spawning rocks in a circle around him. He does a quick spinning strike to shatter these out across the arena. The GBA version has the same name for this slate, though Lexaeus only spawns one boulder, and he actually punches it with his bare hand to shatter it. This one's actually pretty hard to dodge in the GBA version since all the little pieces have hit detection on them. The last level slate in Recon is called Ground Impact and has Lexaeus charging up above the arena before he slams down with an incredible force that shoots out a dome of energy and cracks the ground. Thanks to Damo actually for pointing this out, but this actually looks like Sora's Stun Impact. After finishing this slate, he will be back down to level 1 and will have to power up again before he is invincible. And that's really it for Lexaeus. The fight is pretty simple, and as long as you're careful, you shouldn't have too much trouble with it. Before we move on to Zexion, here are some of Lexaeus' battle quotes.
Can't run! Return to the earth! Darkness, give me power! Just give up! I'll crush you! I'll ease your pain.
Zexion is unique in the fact that he only has a boss fight in Recon. The GBA version handles the story beats the same way, but just has Riku going dark mode and cutting him down in a single strike. The gimmick for this fight is also an interesting one. If Zexion's normal attack card is not broken, you will lose some of your cards. This attack actually uses the magnet effect from KH2 and homes in on Riku doing a tiny bit of damage as his cards are whisked away. In this phase, Zexion can also use a slate called Cyclone Snatch, which will suck you in towards the middle of the arena and siphon your cards away when you get too close. After enough cards have been stolen, Zexion will move to his second phase. Zexion refills his deck with the stolen cards and has a glowing version of your Soul Eater. He also spawns some clones of himself and goes on the offensive. The basic attack has the 3 clones mixing up spinning strikes, slashes, and stabs before Zexion flips into the air to end with a slicing slam. These all have a general similarity to Riku's combo, which I think is a pretty nice touch. Zexion can also use 2 slates during this phase. The first is Catastrophe, which has Zexion and the clones teleporting to the edges of the arena and all shooting energy into the center, forming an orb there. At the end of the slate, Zexion jumps above the orb, slamming his hand down onto it, which pushes out a shockwave and a dome of energy. Dark Punisher has Zexion dashing towards Riku and grabbing him, holding him as darkness pools beneath the two of them. Red Thorns circle around Riku as he takes damage. You can also see some shadows peeking out of the darkness on the ground, which is a nice little detail. To get out of this attack phase, you need to destroy the 3 books around the arena. These have a thorn circling below it as pages fly up from the open tome. Once destroyed, you'll be able to collect all of your stolen cards. Be careful though, because Zexion will actually slip in a dummy card that will stun you with a pillar of fire. The dummy card is a lighter tone of color on your blade, and the weapon is flipped. When used, it disappears in a plume of thorns and changes to Zexion's card. Another thing you can destroy is Zexion's books during the first phase. These seem to act like shields, and when all 3 are destroyed, Zexion will just summon more. Upon defeating him, you will get his card, which when used has a chance to trigger confusion. It also gives you some resistance to slates, fire, ice, and lightning. And that's mostly it for Zexion's fight. Here are some of his battle quotes before we move on to the last fight.
Go!
Looks like I have enough.
Your end is near! Take this!
You should share your powers.
Your memory shall be mine!
What is this? I feel so bad. You should share your powers.
See my illusion!
Of course, the last fight is against Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. This boss fight mirrors a lot of the attacks in Kingdom Hearts 1, complete with its charging attack, disc throws, and of course the Guardian blocking you when you are just going ham on Ansem. The attacks across the GBA and Recom versions are all the same, though Recom does add an additional slate to include one more attack from Kingdom Hearts 1. This slate is called Shock Slash and is made up of 2 blue cards and 1 red one. You can see orbs of darkness surround the Guardian's hands as he chucks energy discs that arc out towards you. The attack and magic cards are actually flipped between the games, so in the GBA version, the red card will be Ansem's lightning attack, while the blue card in Recom triggers the same attack. It's kind of interesting that a thunder attack that should be magic is a red card in the GBA version, and a striking attack is a blue one. Anyways, the lightning attack in the GBA version is a single bolt of lightning that shoots across the arena. In the Recom fight, the Guardian's hands have purplish orbs glowing around them as he swipes up and shoots forward 2 bolts of lightning. Interestingly enough, in the tutorial fight in Recom, Ansem's card attacks have the Guardian doing a unique kind of lightning attack only seen here. Isn't that so cool? Like, an attack that honestly you're probably not going to see has its own unique animation. I don't know, I just thought that was cool. The swipe attack is just that, a single swipe. Of course, the Recom version has a bit more flair as the Guardian coats his hand in darkness to attack with. There are also 2 slates shared across the games. The first is his Dark Rush attack made up of 1 blue card and 2 reds in the GBA version, and all red cards in Recom. The Guardian moves in front of Ansem and does a shoulder charge and rockets across the screen multiple times. The last charge of the Recom version actually has a bit of a pause just like he does in the KH1 version. The last slate is Dark Shadow and is made up of 2 blue cards and 1 red in both versions. The Guardian leaves Ansem's side and attacks you from pools of darkness in the ground. The GBA version's attack launches Riku into the air if you get caught, while the Recom version adds shockwaves to the attack which can pretty easily combo you to death. Ansem's enemy card is called Slate Blind, which hides your slates from the other person. Really only helpful in a PvP scene. In Recom though, you do get resistance from fire, ice, and lightning. And of course, here are some of Ansem's iconic battle quotes.
Take this! The From Guardian! The final darkness is not.
And I think that is all I have for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you enjoyed like the longer format and, not just snipping these up into one-off episodes. If you want to see more, click the cards on screen to see my full series on Chain of Memory. If you enjoyed this, I've done a ton of breakdowns on the Kingdom Hearts series, so be sure to check them out by clicking the other cards on screen. Subscribe or share this video, and I'll see you in the next one.